when we do some editing on this and patch it together. But as you were saying, you know, when we arrive at that place where we have experienced the illusion of separation, we end up creating all of these different things that are not there. And so, like that one particular lesson from the Course, I am angry because I am seeing something that does not exist. And that really is a key to reclaiming our sense of being at peace, you know, and that really is the primary focus, of course, is the atonement, but the central theme throughout the Course in Miracles is the idea that we can live in a state of being at peace at all times. And when you really see the ravages on the body of disruption, anger, frustration, and fear, it, you know, you finally get to that point where it's like, I don't want this anymore. I don't, you know, I don't need this. I don't like this. And so I'm ready to step away from this, to live a life without fear. And that really is, you know, I think a core element that the Course presents to us. And I was reading in the third section of the text, down in Miracles as True Perception. It says, nothing can prevail against the Son of God who commands his spirit into the hands of his Father. By doing this, the mind awakens from its sleep and remembers its Creator. All sense of separation disappears. The Son of God is part of the Holy Trinity, but the Trinity itself is one. There is no confusion within its levels because they are of one mind and one will. This single purpose creates perfect integration and establishes the peace of God. So, again, the Course is never complex. There is never a need for a huge amount of effort. You know, the beauty of the way the whole thing works is it strips away complexity and gets us down to the most simple level of life itself.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, all of these words, right, 1,600 plus pages, or something like that, and it's all just to really help us see that none of this, you know, is that big of a deal, right? As it says, the reason that he kind of like goes into such depth about how the ego works is because the ego is complicated. And simple things are challenging to grasp for complicated minds, right? So we're feeling kind of challenged by this because it just comes back to that statement in the beginning, right? That only what is real, only God is real, nothing else is real, and the truth of what we are can't be threatened. You know, herein lies the peace of God. We just come back to this statement: what is real, what is not is not. And then over and over again, we just practice that in our lives. We watch how the latest issue comes up and we get sucked in again. With all the craziness happening here in US politics right now, it's very easy to get sucked into the story. And yeah, I noticed myself grabbing my pitchfork and starting to march a little bit. And then I'm like, you know, what is this for? What is this for? And that's the question Jesus encourages us to ask again and again. And the answer that we can always find to that question, if we're willing, is that this is for my awakening. This is for my healing. This is for helping me to see that love never ends. And again, it can be challenging to see that level when what's happening on the screen of our lives is chaos, is even war, murder, you know, some really dark and awful things. To realize that this, what's showing up on the screen, is not true. That the only thing that really is true is our connection to that divine love, that divine peace that is everything, that is everywhere. And when we have that experience, when we start to open up to that beautiful experience of light and love, that becomes the answer to all of our questions. That becomes the answer to all of our concerns. And maybe in the world of form, then we feel guided to take a certain action or to say a certain thing to someone. And that's beautiful, right? But that's just a reflection of the love that we now identify with. And it's why masters like Jesus and Buddha had so much wisdom to share, because when they're in that state of deep connection to that powerful union with God, all that comes from that experience is loving and kind. And it just really starts to make life a lot easier, actually, because we don't need to worry about what to do. We don't need to worry about, the right or wrong thing or the perfect path to take through this world. All we need to do is just keep coming back to what we are, and keep letting go of what we're not. And again, what we're not is always some form of fear, some form of separation, some form of even actual personal identity. And this is where the fear often comes in, because to let go of believing that this individual self is me, it feels very threatening, right? And it is sort of a big deal to the ego, because without this individual self-identity, the ego doesn't have anything to project all of its fear onto. It doesn't have any place to put all of its stored up guilt and anger and rage. And this is what frightens it, because we can then really start to see that all of those things are without cause. And when we really see that they're without cause, then we don't choose them anymore. And that is their undoing, is releasing our choice for separation and fear.
Absolutely. And one of the things I find interesting is that, Jesus, Buddha, all the great masters, all those who have managed to tame the ego, tame the mind, so that they're able to dwell in that state of peace constantly throughout their existence. They don't necessarily need to teach us in the sense of, going up on a mountainside and gathering 10,000 people and screaming a verbal message at them. You'll find that people who are fully awakened, just sitting in their presence is an astonishing experience, because they become like a beacon, and they bring through the understanding and the presence and the actual process of alignment with God in such a way that it becomes a nonverbal experience. You can just be in their surroundings and you pick up on what they're radiating, what they're broadcasting at all times. So it's quite fascinating to see how different modern Christianity is, where they grab their Bible and they're pounding on it and screaming and jumping up and down, and people are fainting in the aisles and all of this hoopla. But then you go to a center where people are actually practicing the truth of Christianity, and you'll find silence, you'll find peace, you'll find tranquility. And everybody at the same time is in this union of consciousness. And it's, a tiny step back to our origin. It's a tiny step back to living in a state of atonement at all times. But nonetheless, it's giving us the incentive. So, I think it's important for people to seek out environments where they can experience an alternative to the spoken word, an alternative to all the jumping up and down and dancing in the aisles. I mean, that's all great. It's great fun. But it's not getting you back to your own state of inner peace. And I've said this in the past, and one of the things I recommend is going and hanging out with the Quakers, because their service is a silent service. Go to India, hang out with some of the saints there. They have a silent retreat where people are, it's not about suppressing yourself and repressing your need to speak, but it's about clearing yourself so that you can actually participate in something much, much greater than what you're even currently aware of.
It's true. It's true. There's that line in the Course that the ego speaks first and loudest, right? So that it also describes the ego as the raucous shrieks, right? So how do we get to that silence? Well, we find that stillness within, and maybe at first the ego is screaming. Right? How many people, when they start meditating, they get really frustrated because the mind is just going, going, going. It's like, they talk about the untrained monkey or whatever that's running around inside of us. Well, I think almost all of us can relate. But if you do stay with it, if you do sort of practice stillness even with the monkey mind, eventually it does start to calm. Eventually it does start to still. And then what we find on the other side of this, is, as you're saying, Chris, is that truth, is that connection to love and light and happiness. It is the opening into really all that we've ever wanted. Now, as we go through the world, we think we want this thing or that thing. We want this relationship with one person, or maybe to avoid a relationship with another. All these things we want or don't want in the world, and we're always chasing them or running away from the ones we don't. But really, all that we really want is that deep love of God. That is the deep peace that is behind all of these worldly strivings, and it really leads us to a place of a different kind of vision, right? It leads us to a place where we have what the Course calls the vision of Christ, where we see the face of Christ in all of our brothers. And what does that mean? It really means that we on a deep level, we are bearing witness and experiencing their oneness with God with us, and that there's no one that we leave out from that. So you might have just seen a little flash as the lightning is outside too. So there's a power, right, to this message, and it really kind of lights us up as we're going through this. I just wanted to share, as the thunder is rumbling here, wanted to share a quote from the Course that talks about this way of seeing Christ rather than the outer level of form. This is in chapter 20, section 7. Jesus says, "Who sees a brother's body has laid a judgment on him and sees him not. He does not really see him as sinful. He does not see him at all." So what he's saying here is that what we see with the world's eyes is not the truth. If we believe that our brother's body is the truth of what they are, we are believing that our body is the truth of what we are. And this is what we're working on unlearning by practicing the Course. The most repeated line in A Course in Miracles is, "I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me." And this is not an easy message to absorb, right? Because a part of us is desperately holding on to the idea that we're a body. And this challenge, this questioning, this release of an idea that this is our truth is ultimately the ego's end. And the ego knows it. So the ego will throw up all kinds of resistance, all kinds of ways that I don't really want to study this. I don't really want to practice this. I don't want to incorporate these ideas into my life. Even when another part of us is very diligent and very committed and very much wants to have this awakening and do this work. So I mention all this so that if you are noticing this resistance in you, if you're fighting against some of this inner conflict as you're practicing the Course, just to know it's okay, that you don't need to judge yourself for that. This is a very normal part of our practice of the Course. And in fact, if you're not finding some level of resistance to this practice, you're probably not really going very deep with it, because this resistance is pretty much a universal experience of doing this work in a serious and dedicated way. So this is just a little bit of reassurance as you're going through maybe a patch like this.
Well, I think it's important that people do realize, how very true that statement is, because a lot of times the ego has very subtle distractions, and we don't even realize we're being drawn over into, some other mud puddle. And yet later on in the day, you look at that and it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to need to ask for forgiveness again. This is just an ongoing litany over and over and over again. But if you are consistent and you stick with it, you will discover that a very magical process starts to unfold. The more you put your attention on that part of your mind that is willing to embrace these ideas, the more it will grow. It's like any muscle, you know, you exercise it and it expands and gets stronger. Further down in this section that I've been looking at, the statement God created man in his own image and likeness needs to be reinterpreted. Image can be understood as thought, and likeness as of like quality. That's something that, you know, gets repeated over and over again in the Course. The idea that God didn't have anything else to refer to. God knows, and at the point of creation knew only itself. So therefore, God could only create itself. And that's what we are. We are God in expression. It says, God did create spirit in his own thought and of a quality like to his own. There is nothing else. So that eliminates, you know, 99.9% of the existence that we imagine going on around us. We have all these dramas, all these heroes, all these villains. We have created a multitude of universes, and we inhabit them vicariously. You know, we bounce around and cherry pick our experiences for one lifetime and then another lifetime. But ultimately, it's all one life, and it's ultimately going to be reduced down to the one state of being, and that state of being is God. So it's a journey, as has been stated, a journey without distance, but at the same time, our perception gives us the illusion that we're all over the map. You know, and that sense of isolation and separation becomes such an insidious thing that we fall victim to it over and over and over again. So really, diligence is the only thing that you need to apply to A Course in Miracles, and you'll arrive where you want to eventually arrive at and realize you never left.
It's so true. It's so true. This is why this is called a practice, right? Because we just keep practicing it. And we, you know, fall off the wagon and we just get back on. And we fall off the wagon and we get back on. I think it's a Sufi line from a poem that says, though you've broken your vows 10,000 times, come, yet again come. And I think it applies equally to our practice of the Course. You know, no matter how many times we have failed, in a sense, by choosing the ego, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're always welcome to try again. You know, the last section of the text is called Choose Once Again, where we just choose once again. You know, okay, we chose the ego. I chose fear. I said some words of anger, or I acted out of upset. Okay, can I find gentleness here? Can I find compassion both for myself and others here? And the answer always can be yes. I mean, we have to decide for each of ourselves what that answer is. But for me, you know, one of these examples is looking at the world and watching President Trump do all of these really seemingly hurtful and bad and cruel things just over and over again, and just saying words that are just outright lies, and all of these things. I can just very easily get hooked in. You know, I can become the righteous warrior against you know, falsehood, and then I realize, well, what is all this for? You know, well, this is here for me to wake up. Now that doesn't mean I don't maybe write a letter or speak out or march against, you know, any of these injustices. Maybe I still do that, but the deeper work always is, can I let go of the anger that I feel? Can I let go of the sense of victimization that comes over me? Can I come back to a sense of peace and let my actions and words come from that place instead? And this again is not always easy, but this is what we have to keep working on. And And again, for me, this relationship I have with Trump, just seeing him on the news over and over again, this is one of my healing relationships, and to really see that and to let it be that for my life and for my spiritual opening.
Well, and it's interesting that a lot of the evangelicals are saying God chose Trump. You know, Trump is Trump is the second coming of Christ. Because to a certain degree, God did choose Trump in order to get you stirred up, in order to get you to look at what's going on in your own consciousness, and in order to get you to at least begin to awaken to the idea that the reason that Trump is empowered is because of all the resistance and all the judgment. When you finally arrive at that plateau where you're looking at it and realizing, I'm not seeing reality, I'm seeing a farce. You know, this is a dog and pony show. And it's designed very specifically to keep my ego enraged. And the minute you start to step off of that ledge, instead of going down, you go up. You ascend to a much higher level, where all of this swirling insanity going on around you is laughable. Nobody ever got hurt. There was no blood. There was no fear. There was no death or destruction. But it certainly seemed real. And that's because you're really good at projecting this dream and putting yourself in the midst of this dream. You know, one of the things that I've noticed about the last year, or actually about 2.5 years now, is that every night I have ongoing dreams. So if I fall asleep, I can guarantee a little snippet of an alternate reality that part of my mind is going to create. So, you know, Edgar Allan Poe talked about a dream within a dream. And that's exactly what's going on here. And if you pay attention to your dreams, you begin to realize, oh, a part of me is creating this dream I have when I'm asleep, and a part of me is creating this dream that I'm surrounded by when I'm awake. So then it becomes, you know, a journey out of this insane asylum, and you begin to be able to look at everything and pull yourself back and no longer engage, no longer judge, but to get to a place where you can forgive it and let go of it. It says, God offers only mercy. Your words should reflect only mercy, because that is what you have received and it is what you should give. Justice is a temporary expedient or an attempt to teach you the meaning of mercy. It is judgmental only because you're capable of injustice. So every time you say this dream is real, you're attacking God, you're attacking your fellow man, and you're attacking yourself. You know, so it's like throw it into reverse, start backing out of the mud hole.
You just get that loud beeping, you know, when you're backing the truck up, beep, 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 beep.
That annoying sound.
Yeah, that's in this metaphor. It's a way of knowing we're going in the right direction, right? So it helps us get unstuck, because this world is like driving into the ditch. Believing that this world is really going to give us what we want is like driving into the ditch again. And we do it, and we do it, and we do it. We keep driving into the ditch. But luckily, again, no matter how many times we have to put it in reverse and get out of that stuck position, we'll do it, and we'll do it, and we'll do it. And every time we do it, we do start to reduce our attachment to what happens here. You know, in this world, things are going to go good and things are going to go bad. It's the dualistic nature of this experience. So if we're trying to attach our happiness to what unfolds here, well, some days we're going to be happy and some days we're going to be sad. But if we release our need for happiness from what happens here, then we can be happy for no reason, right? And we can be happy for no reason because we are happiness itself. The essence of what we are is pure happiness and joy and love. And when we tap into that truth, that's what we are. we can't help but be that happiness. And then that just sort of spills over, right? Our cup that runneth over, well, it runneth over with joy and happiness and love. And when we're in that place, all we do is we just let it shine. We just share that with everyone we meet, everyone we think of. And that's a real amazing thing. You know, that's the experience of the real world that we learn to go for in the Course, and that's what we're doing here.
Absolutely. A little bit further down in this section I've been reading, it says, peace is a natural heritage of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but he is not free to establish what his inheritance is. That's an interesting idea. You know, I mean, some of us come into this world and we inherit a fortune like Trump did. Others come in and they're dirt poor and they have inherited nothing. And yet the truth is, we all have the one inheritance, which is the presence of God within us. So it's the problem everyone must decide is a fundamental question of authorship. All fear comes ultimately, and sometimes by way of a very devious route, from the denial of authorship. The offense is never to God, but only to those who deny him. So if you think you made yourself, then you've got problems. As soon as you are willing to give up that nonsense and realize God is the author, I am the expression of God, then you start to step into different levels of being at peace throughout the day.
Yeah, and as they say, if you think again that you know that this world is your inheritance, you've got another think coming, you know, and that other think is this thought of openness and truth and peace, and it's so much better, right? To believe that this bodily experience is our truth is a belief in limitation. It's a belief in lack, and ultimately it's a belief in separation and even death. Because that's what this world shows us again and again. But the good news is that it's not our true inheritance, whether we've came into this world with millions in the bank account or nothing. As you said, our real inheritance is the love of God and that peace of Christ. And the sooner that we start to awaken to that and to really do our best to experience that, the sooner that we sort of break the chains and release the shackles that bind us to this experience of heaviness and hardship, and we emerge into the light and into the love. So it's definitely worth our time.
It absolutely is. Well, Barrett, you've got some events coming up, some activities for people to check out?
Yeah, Charlie and I are doing our next Good News on Saturday, August 3rd. So come check us out if you're in Glenview, or as always, join us online. Following that, I have an event in London in October, I believe 18th, 19th, or maybe 19th, 20th, that Saturday, Sunday. So if you happen to be over there or want to take a trip to the UK, it'd be awesome to have you join us for that. As always, you can reach out to me for the details about what's coming up. And yeah, in the meanwhile, you can always check out my website, miraclesu.org, which has information and classes on A Course in Miracles. If you sign up for any of the classes, you get automatic enrollment in twice-a-month live video calls with me, where we just explore A Course in Miracles as a group, and how we use it in our lives to find that sense of peace and joy. So it'd be great to have you join us there. And as always, Chris's great resource is themiraclewithin.org, another great Course in Miracles online tool that has a lot of good reading and a lot of good videos to explore more about all of this stuff about the Course.
So now you're going to get ready to head up to Door County, where the cherries are flush and there is that element of anticipation for this joy of summer in the air.
It's true. It's true. There's a liveliness and a fullness of life that often comes in the summer, and I think on our spiritual paths we can strive to have that be our experience too. So I'm definitely going to be enjoying this trip up farther north in Wisconsin next week, and I look forward to seeing you the week after for our next Good News Talk.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I would have you bring me back an ice cream cone from Wilson's, but it would probably melt before you get down there with it.
That's true, but the jelly bean in the bottom would probably last, so maybe, I'll at least have to bring you one of those.
That would work. Well, Barrett, my friend, you have a fabulous rest of the week, and we will chat in a week or two.
All right, I look forward to it. Man. You have a good one.
Bye.
All right, bye, man.